I had a very adversarial outlook on the narcissism debacle. And as much as I knew about it, I've been seeking information and understanding about this for a long time. It's been a big problem for me and a lot of other people. And I thought I knew a lot about it, and I suppose I did. I do. It's just, there's things I know now that you can't fight the zombie with the zombie. The zombie is symbolic of the unrealized life, the non-self-actualized life. As such, it's like this necrotic version of itself. And devours everything it can of what it might have been or could have been. Mindlessly devouring. And from this I came up with this, or intuited rather, this kind of concept of a zombie operating system. And this is what drives a narcissistic person at the core. Of course, around it you have all this glitz and glam. The zombie black magic. I've got a video about that too. It's an old one. And the videos are, they're informative in that way, and they're kind of funny. And they're a little, I've said a few aggressively crazy things as well. But I was still fighting it from that kind of a semi-necrotic state. That's the thing. I hadn't healed enough. I didn't understand enough. I mean, in a way, I was still kind of feeding into that system. So I understand it now, this whole narcissism thing, it's kind of I've known it's a big deal, but it's like from where I'm sitting, it's like a spiritual sickness. It's one that is anathema to attachment and born of trauma. How strange that something can be so pervasive. Because we don't just have narcissistic people, we have narcissistic systems. Big time. And yet deep down, we're all longing for more. That's why I think the psychobiology thing is so important, especially in a more materialistic world. The word spirit, spirituality, might not carry so much gravity. But the term psychobiology might, as does its implications, as does the intuitive factor. It's like a song or something, a frequency. For growth. It's trying to come out, but it needs things. Instead of getting things the right way, because we might not know how, especially due to trauma, these other necrotic systems kind of come into play. I don't know what it's like to I don't personally know what it's like to get something out of a necrotic system, to actually like thrive on that. I have no idea what that feels like. Because to me it just feels awful. It's unbearable. Playing games and being manipulative. Now, obviously there's some circumstances where you've got to be cautious. I mean, it was Mark Twain who said, be careful in revealing the truth to those who don't deserve it. But at the same time, I don't know. Who's to say? I like to think of the octopus as a spirit animal, personally. According to the story of evolution, long, long ago, the octopus had belonged to some kind of species or genus that had a shell covering their squiddius cephalopod. What are they called? Cephalopods, right? Something. Are they? What are they called? Or something like that. Anyway, they're gelatinous forms. But they had a hard time getting around like that. And they're kind of basic. Apparently at one point, the octopus did something remarkable. It ditched its protection and embraced its weakness, and its weakness became its most profound strength imaginable. It's from that the octopus can do perplexing things. So much so that other life doesn't even notice it if the octopus doesn't want them to. It can blend in with damn near anything, the drop of a hat. It can escape damn near anything. It can fit damn near anywhere. Whereas it's very squishy, its tentacles are also very strong. It embraced its creativity. And became something of an enigma. So much so that some pontificators out there these days seem to wonder if the octopus is some kind of alien. If octopuses came from some, I don't know, who knows, a different kind of, was it panspermia? Something. It's the idea of like some meteor carrying extremophiles, the kind of micro critters that can survive damn on everything, and then, it's in a place that they can come to life and then do their thing. A bona fide extremophile. I don't know, whatever. But they're that different. They're problem solvers, too. And what's so strange, they're not social creatures with each other, but they can bond with people. How strange is that? So many videos out there of things like this. And then there's this documentary, My Octopus Teacher, so that's a thing too. I'd highly recommend that. I am not aware of another species on this planet that so embodies the soul of humanity So what do we have buried beneath the surface? This perplexing and amorphous, enigmatic creature that you've really got to get in there to formulate a bond with. And it just keeps surprising you with what it can do. The octopus isn't just a personal spirit animal. That's the thing. That's what I'm getting at. This whole thing with intuition, the octopus has 8 different brains. There's a brain in each tentacle. Each tentacle has a mind of its own, and yet they all work in tandem. That's very relatable. And I don't think it needs to be an enigma. I don't think we're meant to be carrying around shells. Man, do they slow us down. And whereas the human part is a social creature, it's almost as if our souls have become not. So they can bond with people. And they seem to need to, big time. There's things that we're missing that sometimes we can only get from one another. And if we never got that, boy, does that muddy the waters. That's that intergenerational trauma thing. And it takes work. Tapping into that intuition. My intuition, my unconscious, I've noticed it's kind of like Doctor Strange and Avengers Endgame. Going through like a bazillion different timelines. Like, oh, okay, I found one. And I'm Tony Stark. Like, all right, Doc, whatever you say, just please don't make me put on the Infinity Gauntlet again. I don't want to have to go through that shit again. And let's do the finger snap. Ooh. It's very painful. Metaphorically speaking, of course, but, at the same time, octopuses can get torn apart brutally. And yet if enough of them gets away, they can regenerate. This is also relatable. But, here's the thing. They're also tapped in. They're tuned in, so they know how. They know how to access their psychobiology because they are their psychobiology. There's no egoic divorce. So funny, strange. So many things within culture that advise us to avoid our underlying needs, to hide them, to disguise that vulnerability with a shell. But what have I found in exercising that gelatinous material? It becomes like a muscle. Is it open and vulnerable still? Yes. And sometimes it's so vulnerable it has to intermingle with another vulnerability from another and make this kind of connection where data is received on another kind of level. And it's important. It's like we're all coming back from something. The ossified ego thing has been the way of the world for a long time now, but That's not it. It's no good. I'm not lobbying to dissociate from the ego either. This is not a very good prescription. The ego is, like in a Jungian perspective, it's meant to act as like kind of a membrane and an ambassador and interface from within and without and a number of things, but it's also meant to act as a housing for the entire body politic of oneself. And then it tends to look pretty spectacular. Pretty bioluminescent. As opposed to crystallized and rigid. Whereas the rest of itself remains fluidious muck. It's constantly running from and protecting when that fluidious muck is in dire need of sunlight, airing out, water, the proper nutrition and interpersonal nutrition so it can come back to life, be resurrected, if you will. So it can get all bioluminescent and enigmatic again. I want a profound strength in that, but also buoyancy, flexibility. Creativity. Enigmatic stuff. So yeah, I have a bit of a different look on the narcissism debacle for now than I did about 6 months ago. So I've learned a lot more about what it takes to disentangle from that stuff. And to have a much clearer idea of what's really going on in there. It's complicated. There's a spiritual element to it, and as I've found, that's one of the most important areas to do the work. Getting out of the polluted wasteland, if you will. The shark-infested waters. Instead of just going all berserker mode and going after the sharks. Well, you're made out of gelatinous material. Maybe you got a shell on, but, yeah. We're not even talking real sharks here. We're talking aberrant sharks. They've got a sickness. So that makes me even worse. It's just kind of feeding and fueling the necrotic shark system. Got to starve it to death. So those things can't take a bite at anybody anymore. Something like that. So yeah, there's some things, and I think we'll stick a pin in that for now. So, thanks for tuning in, and until next time.